Hello and welcome to another Pitchin' for Baseball and Softball webcast. Today we're chatting with John Seman, the Director of Athletics at ASPIRA Schools in Philadelphia, who oversees the athletic departments at Antonio Pantoja Charter, John B. Stetson Charter, Eugenio Maria de Hostos Charter, and Olney Charter High School. John, thank you so much for taking the time. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk to you about impact, how the sports have grown at these schools as well, and the positive effects that you've seen on the kids in your programs. So I mentioned you oversee the athletic departments at 4 charter schools in Philadelphia. Can you tell us a little bit about these schools and the environments that they're in? What are some of the challenges that they face?
Sure. So all 4 of the schools that I oversee, the ASPIRA schools, they're located in the most impoverished sections of Philadelphia. It's a challenge. I would say our kids have multiple challenges as it pertains to attendance and just their normal way of life, to be honest with you. And the donations from Pitchin' for Baseball and Pitchin' for Softball have gone a long way as far as supporting our kids' involvement in baseball and softball programs, but also empowering our kids inside the school, which not a lot of people see sometimes as far as their attendance, their academics, and seeing them not invested just on the field, but also invested in the classroom, which makes them a better overall student athlete, which is what we strive for at all of our schools.
Now, when was the first time that you reached out to Pitchin' for Baseball and Softball for an equipment grant, and how did you first hear about the organization?
Yeah, so I mean, actually came through one of my baseball coaches at the time. It was my first year as the director of athletics for the ASPIRA schools back in, I think, in 2015. I wasn't really a baseball, softball guy. I played soccer for most of my high school career and played other sports and played Little League baseball, but I've been out of it for a while. When he kind of brought that to me, I made sure that I reached out. I think it was Steve Eisen that I talked to first. And then since there, I mean, the last 5 years, I mean, we've had a pretty good partnership, and we're very grateful for all the donations that we've received for our kids and our programs.
Now, at Olney Charter, the baseball and softball programs have both really grown over the last few years. You've been able to add JV teams, which allow more kids to participate. How have you made this happen?
Yeah, I think there's multiple facets to that. I mean, obviously, coaches' commitment, having coaches who are committed is important to us, and we need to have that to try to build a program where we're gathering as many kids as possible that are interested, but also getting the equipment and the resources is important as well. And that's something that baseball and softball are expensive sports. I think people who are involved in baseball and softball understand that. And those donations that we've received have helped give our kids cleats. They've helped develop small group instruction on the field as far as catcher equipment. Not a lot of the schools in the inner city have multiple sets of catcher's equipment. We have that, which allows us to basically create a funnel, if you want to call it that, as far as getting younger kids involved as catchers, and then having JV teams and building off of that. So, we want to get as many kids involved in our programs as possible. Equipment is obviously a big part of that. The coach's commitment to it as well, but obviously Pitchin' for Baseball and Softball, the donations over the last 5 years have helped us grow towards that goal.
I want to ask you about some of the individual kids and their stories. For instance, in last year's impact report to us, you mentioned a student named John who was actually attempting to continue his baseball career in college. Can you share anything about him and how important baseball has been in his life?
Yeah, John, I believe, came to us from the Dominican Republic. So he's coming from the Dominican Republic, and he played at Albany, I believe, for 4 years. And I'm almost positive he was a 4-year student athlete for us. So John is a guy who is 100%, or student athlete who is 100% committed to baseball. He lived, breathed baseball, and some of the things that we just talked about as far as developing our programs and things like that. I mean, we'll have winter sessions for our kids. He's in that. We try to have fall workouts for our kids. He's in that. It kind of goes back around to the whole thing that how baseball was so important to him is that it kept him on track to graduate. It kept him on track that his grades were good enough that he was eligible for scholarships at the next level. And I don't know, I believe he went to a junior college because I don't think his last year we worked out the way he would want it to have worked out for him. But John is a very good student athlete. It's been a pleasure for me as the athletic director to watch him grow as a student and an athlete. And you know, some of the donations that we did get from Pitching for Baseball, you know, obviously helped John grow because we use those donations for like what I've talked about with fall workouts and winter workouts, and then obviously in season. And it's all about getting as many kids involved as possible, and kind of at the high school level, it's a year-round process. We want our kids playing year-round, and that helps, you know, with students like John.
Sports can definitely be a method for kids to use to end up furthering their education because of it. And similarly, you mentioned that he was from the Dominican Republic. John B. Stetson Kanishla came to the school from Puerto Rico. Do you think that having the chance to play softball helped her adapt to the new environment?
I would say absolutely. It's Kanesha came from us from Puerto Rico in 6th grade, I believe, and we knew right away that she was a top-notch athlete. Now, unfortunately, she was supposed to come to our high school and then wound up going back to Puerto Rico after 8th grade. But for the short time that she was with us, she did struggle in school. She struggled to make friends. She struggled to socialize, to stay on track. And once she realized that we had softball, then all of a sudden those things started to change. And it just so happened that one of our coaches at the time, and this kind of goes back to coach's commitment, is that one of our coaches at the time, she's our community outreach coordinator. So she's responsible for attendance and truancy and making sure kids are coming to school and doing what they're supposed to be doing. So that was just a perfect partnership right there. And Kanesha kind of grew off from there. She kind of grew leaps and bounds, and it did help her adapt to the surrounding, because obviously what John B. Stetson, where it's located at in Kensington and being Allegheny, it's a little different from where she was coming from. She didn't know anybody, so softball kind of helped bridge that gap.
Now, you also shared at Antonio Pantoja Charter. They had a pretty young baseball team in 2019 after they had won a couple of championships. But there was one student named Harrison who really emerged as a leader for that team. How was he able to step up last year? And kind of in a more general sense, how does playing sports help kids find these leadership skills within them?
Yeah, I think Harrison is a student athlete I'm probably one of the most proudest of, just because, you know, where he came from in 5th and 6th grade, he was a little bit, I guess you'd call him a knucklehead, a jokester, a clown, struggling in school, constantly having to be on top of him, the coach and myself, and I knew. And then after winning 2 championships at the middle school league, there were obviously high expectations, but then we lost all those kids. And Harrison was like the lone student athlete left over from that team or those teams. And I was kind of curious to see if he would step into that role with younger kids who are in 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, or 6th and 7th grade. And he did. I mean, I didn't expect it. I've had conversations with Harrison one-on-one multiple times. Harrison, to his credit, stepped up and took charge. I mean, he's also the catcher on the team, so that's another leadership position for our team in general. He has to make sure he's talking to the pitcher, making sure that they're making the right decisions at the right times, and I'm very proud of him. Why or how he stepped up, I think that comes with one-on-one conversations, that comes with preseason meetings with him, and I didn't have that meeting per se, but I know the coach did. I know that we tried to build him up and make sure that he understood. And then once he kind of saw what we were working with, that team, which shouldn't have really made the playoffs, went to the championship again. So to see him grow and be a leader and see that happen, like, I'm kind of getting choked up about it, because these are the type of stories you want to talk about, you know, so yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And likewise, Eugenio Maria de Hostos, their softball team had their best season in school history in 2019. So what can you share about that program and how they've been able to grow over the last 5 years?
Yes, I think it's a challenge at our schools, to be honest with you. I mean, both Stetson and Pantoja, we practice at rec centers down the street, and then we play our games at Cheltenham. And Ostos has the ability to play their games at Cheltenham as well. That's a partnership that we have done for the last 5 years that I'm very grateful for. But I think playing on, I don't want to say just playing on legit fields, but obviously, again, it goes back to having the amount of equipment that we have. It goes back to the coaches being present every day and making sure that they're preparing for practices, they're instructing, we're doing small group instructions, and then we're creating a pipeline from 5th to 8th grade where the students know what is expected, and those expectations just keep getting higher and higher and higher every single year. And now we're at the point on where I would say at all 3 of our middle schools, we expect to compete for a championship every year. That's not to say that that's the only goal. It's the ultimate goal, but obviously our goal is to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in the classroom, and then we take that and then we try to win. And if we don't, we don't. But put the time and effort in and make sure you're committed. And I think with Ostos and how that's grown, it's a team effort. It starts with me. It comes down to coaches, the principals, and the administration, not just at Ostos, but at all the schools are very supportive and making sure that, if we don't get everything that we need, and pitching for baseball and softball has helped us tremendously doing that. But if there is something that I'm missing, like a face mask for a pitcher, a softball pitcher, that we get that right away. So I think all those factors play a part of it. Parents are there. They play a part of it, and our teachers are showing up to games now too, and they also play a part of it. So it's almost been a community type based program where it's kind of taken off.
That's really cool to hear. And it's great, especially considering the challenges that these schools face in the areas that they're in, for these kids to have the opportunity to compete at a high level, to be in the playoffs, play in championship games, and have that experience. So that's awesome to hear. I know we talked a little bit about Harrison and his great story of stepping up into a leadership role. Are there any other teams or students in particular whose stories have stood out to you over the last few years, or for whom these sports and the opportunity to play have had a life-changing effect on them?
Well, I know Chris. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head here. I know back in like 2016, I want to say it is, we had a baseball pitcher at Ostos. He struggled mightily in the classroom, but this again goes back to baseball is something that he would play outside of school. And once we had a team and he knew about it, he became one of our pitchers, and we were able to track him in school and make sure he was doing the necessary things. There's other students at John B. Stetson, again, most impoverished section of Philadelphia. Our kids come to us. That's a 5th to 8th grade school, and at John B. Stetson, they come in reading at a 2nd grade reading level. So you can imagine the challenges that the teachers face and that the kids are facing. And baseball is just another outlet, and softball is another outlet for them. And if I think about kids over their careers, we have a behavioral program at Stetson, and there are kids in that behavioral program that play softball and baseball for us that have just taken off from leadership roles. I can't go into all their names just because I've been there for 5 years and I'm trying to juggle my thoughts as far as trying to pinpoint kids. But those behavior students can be a challenge if they're not held accountable and if they're not provided opportunities. And the reality is that those kids have done a very good job for us and for themselves, and they've been able to develop as student athletes and move on to high school. And something I am most proud of, and not just leadership roles, I think a lot of our kids do a good job, and a lot of our coaches do a good job putting kids in leadership roles. But one thing that I will say is that our kids are prepared for high school athletics at the middle school level, and our kids at high school are prepared for college athletics. And that's a job by the coaches. It's a job by the year-round process that we've talked about. And it's also, a credit to the student athletes and their commitment and the parents' commitment and supporting them.
And one final question for you. With the pandemic going on right now and the interruptions that it's caused, where are your programs right now? Are they planning to play again this coming spring? And do you see the opportunity to play sports having more significance now in light of all the uncertainty going on in these kids' lives?
Yeah, I'd say absolutely. To say it's been a struggle right now is kind of an understatement. It's not easy for anybody, including me. We want our kids playing, but we want to make sure that they're safe. This virus and the pandemic and everything that's been going on You just don't know what's going to happen next week, next month. You don't know if there's going to be a vaccine, there's not going to be a vaccine. And we really have to focus on creating plans and return to play practices based on guidance from not only the middle school league and the high school league, but also local health officials, the Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic Association, and then obviously our school boards. But all these factors in the mayor's office, all in the National Federation of High School Sports, there's a lot of factors involved with this. As of today, I would say yes, we're absolutely 100% playing in the spring, if given that opportunity and it is deemed safe to do so. If it is not, then we will continue doing what we've been doing, which is more virtual workouts where kids are at home working out one-on-one, and we're giving them workout routines to do and work on. It is, like I said, it's frustrating is an understatement, but it's something that I understand as a director of athletics, that we got to put our kids in the safest position possible, and that's what we're going to do.
Well, John, I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time, and certainly challenging times, but we're wishing the best of luck to you and your teams moving forward.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And if you're watching this at home and you have new or lightly used baseball or softball equipment that you could donate, or if you're interested in making a monetary donation, please visit www.pifbs.org, or you can shoot us an email at info@pifbs.org. And you can also check out more of our webcasts on YouTube or Facebook at Pitch In for Baseball and Softball.